Thanks for joining in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And you got to take advantage of the sweepstakes that they're offering. The prizes are unbelievable. Links and information that you need are in the description below. Take advantage of it. You won't regret it, believe me. Time now to talk about the New York Jets. Jets, Jets. They broke the Bengals' hearts out there. So many things to talk about from a sports psychology standpoint. And we did a little deal about the sports psychology of this football game. Look, the New York Jets went to New England, a division rival, and had over 50 points hung on them. And they lost big. They were angry. They wanted to do something about it. The Bengals went to Baltimore, beat the Baltimore Ravens by 24 points, a division rival on the road. North and South Pole. The Jets get smoked by a division rival on the road. The Bengals smoke a division rival on the road. Perfect trap game. You can talk about it till you're blue in the face. The New York Jets played the football game like it meant more to them, with only one win on the season. The Cincinnati Bengals were the number one seed if the playoffs started the following week. Should have been more important to them. But human nature is you start to take things for granted a little bit. And again, coaches, veteran players, talk to young players about it. I mean, you can talk about it all you want until you experience it and you're hit in the face by it. And then you have to learn a tough lesson by it. It really doesn't. Talk is cheap. Talk doesn't mean much. I want to hit on something, though, from a personal standpoint that's very similar that happened to the 1981 team that I played on. They went to the Super Bowl for the first time here in Cincinnati. We were 5-2. We went down to New Orleans to take on the New Orleans Saints. They were 1-6. The New Orleans Saints spanked us 17-7. I thought Forrest Gregg was going to kill us. We lost by 10 points to a team that didn't deserve to be on the same field, in our opinion, with us, but we did not finish the football game. We didn't even come close to being as competitive as we needed to be in that football game. We fall to 5-3, just like this Cincinnati Bengal football team. Forrest Gregg basically said, look, it was one of those days at the office. Put it away. We have a lot of season left. We're still a good football team. Let's bounce back. Sports psychology. Will the Bengals be able to bounce back? Here's how we bounce back that year. You can decide one of two things. Fold your tent, assume the fetal position, curl up and assume the fetal position, or fight back. We had what's called the November to Remember in that season in 1981. After that loss to the New Orleans Saints, we play the Houston Oilers in Cincinnati on November 1st. We win 34-21. The next week, November 8th, we go to San Diego. Dan Fouts, Charlie Joyner, Kellen Winslow, all these Hall of Famers. We beat them 40-17. Then the LA Rams come to Cincinnati. Jack Youngblood, all these great defensive linemen, Freddie Dryer, all these guys. They have a good football team offensively as well. We beat them 24-10. Denver Broncos come to Cincinnati on the 22nd of November. They have a good football team. You know, that's still the Elway era and everything that goes along with it. 38-21 victory for the Cincinnati Bengals. Then we play the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland to finish the month on November 29th. The way that month laid out, we played 5 games in the month of November, and we beat Cleveland 41-21. 5 wins in the month of November. November to remember. The closest game was a 14-point victory. We just took people apart, blew people away. We go 7-1 to finish the season and go 12-4 overall after being at the halfway point at 5-3 and losing to a 1-6 football team, the New Orleans Saints, 17-7. Now, I'm not saying that this Cincinnati Bengals football team is going to do that and be a Super Bowl participant. Of course, we lost to the 49ers, but, you know, we go 7-1, then we win 2 playoff games. We beat the Bills 28-21, then we win the Freezer Bowl and we beat the Chargers again. Everybody's like, oh boy, if the Chargers didn't have to play in the Freezer Bowl, the Bengals would have been in trouble. We played them in San Diego in November and beat them 40-17. I think we were the better football team. We beat them in their weather. We beat them in our weather. Although 59 below is nobody's weather, believe me. You don't play many football games in 59 below wind chill. My point is, the season's not over after losing a football game that you shouldn't have lost. If the Cincinnati Bengals football team says it's not over, it's not over. They're going to decide their own destiny on this one. You know, a couple of things that took place in the football game. Early on, the New York Jets had not scored in the first quarter for the season. They were outscored 44-0. They hadn't put a point on the board in the first quarter. They win the coin toss, and they take the ball. The Bengals would have deferred if they won the coin toss. So it worked out for a win for the Bengals in the coin toss anyway, because the Jets want the ball. They want to receive the football. They had so much confidence in their offensive game plan. They wanted to get Mike White, who nobody even really knew anything about. This was his first NFL start. He threw for over 400 yards and generated 511 yards offense for his football team. 2 players have thrown for over 400 yards in their first NFL start, Mike White and Cam Newton. Difference is Cam Newton was the first pick of the draft, and he went to the Pro Bowl. Mike White is not that type of, did not have that kind of resume. But boy, did he have a first start that goes in the history books. One of 2 in the history of the National Football League to do what he did. They go right down the field and score on their first possession. Takes care of not scoring any points in the first quarter. Now the Jets are starting to feel themselves a little bit. Wow, look what Mike White's doing here. Shortly thereafter, Jesse Bates intercepts Mike White. He threw 2 interceptions in a 3-pass sequence. He takes it all the way down, 65-yard return, all the way to the 1-yard line. You have a wide receiver hustle for the Jets and make a tackle at the 1-yard line. That was a 7-point play, as it turned out, because the Bengals, first and goal at the 1, run the ball, 1-yard loss. Run it again, 1-yard loss. Third down, hits Jamar Chase in the chest, drops the ball. Fourth down, they go for it. Instead of putting points on the board, Zach Taylor decides to go for it, and Joe Burrow gets sacked, 12-yard sack. They get the ball at the 15-yard line. The takeaway gives no points. The Bengals have been unbelievable in the red zone all year long. They come up with no points on that drive. It's only the second time all year that's happened. And then later in the game, they had a first and goal at the 7-yard line, had to settle for a field goal. So red zone execution slipped in this football game. You have to give the Jets a lot of credit. The Bengals are down in the football game, but they rally back and they take a 14-point lead. They have an 11-point lead with 7 minutes to play. They have a 4-point lead with, 3 or 4 minutes to play. They can't finish the football game. You know, another play that's getting a lot of buzz is the deflection interception by Shaq Lawson. Just a great play by him. The design of the play, he's unblocked intentionally. It's a screen. It's a wide receiver screen to Jamar Chase. They've run it a bunch. He was not fooled by the play action fake at all. He just blitzed, just ran right to the quarterback. Joe Burrow is going through the play action fake, snaps his head around and just throws the football. I mean, it's a timing thing. We just got to get it out of your hand. Shaq Lawson's closing in on him, jumps, tips it to himself. Instead of being tipped to the ground or tipped away, tips it right to himself. They get the ball at the 14-yard line on the interception. They score the go-ahead touchdown to Tyler Kroft, former Cincinnati Bengal of all things, at the tight end position to take a lead in the football game. And then they run the Philly special to White, and he scores the 2-point conversion. What didn't White do? I mean, just crazy, all the things that lined up the way it did. If Joe Burrow was able to throw that ball 2 inches higher and get the ball over Shaq Lawson to Jamar Chase, wide open green pastures, 50-yard play minimum. I mean, you have Jonah Williams coming out. It was a wide receiver screen. Jonah Williams coming out to crush the cornerback. Then it's Jamar Chase one-on-one with the middle safety. I'll take that bet. He might have gone to the house. So say that he just gets him in field goal range. Instead of getting that field goal to increase a lead, they give the ball up on a short field. The Jets score a touchdown. That's the minimum 10-point swing. Could have been 14-point swing if the Bengals do score, which I think there might have been a chance on one play. That's the kind of game this game was. A lot of crazy things took place. And then, of course, the final thing, and the Bengals shouldn't have put themselves in this situation. You never put yourself in a scenario where an official can determine the outcome of the game in a negative way for you. And the Bengals did that. Mike Hilton was called for helmet-to-helmet contact, and the Bengals were on 3rd and 11. The play was stopped. He made a tackle. Play was stopped. The Jets would have punted the ball back to the Bengals with just under 2 minutes to go and a full complement of timeouts. I'll put money on Joe Burrow being able to at least get a field goal to tie it and put it in overtime. Maybe win the football game with a touchdown drive. Who knows? They don't get a chance to do it. Why? Personal foul. The flag is thrown. At that time, to throw that flag, that was it. Coffin nails. Game's over. Bengals lose the football game they shouldn't have lost. The official made a call where the official made the final determination of the outcome of the game. And that shouldn't happen. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a little separate rant that I'm going to go on about that very call. Ludicrous to make that call. All I'll say is one thing. I'd say there were maybe a handful of plays. I remember Tyler Boyd getting hit on the sideline after a 21-yard gain, helmet to helmet. Worse than that one. I remember other tackles that were made where helmet-to-helmet contact was produced that didn't get called, but it gets called in that situation? Wow. That's a tough pill to swallow. But again, I'm going to get more specific on that play. Check out my rant that's coming your way. All right, enough of that. Got to move on. Can't let the Jets' loss turn into 2. That's the biggest thing. Another sports psychology thing. The Cleveland Browns come off a tough loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 15-10. Cincinnati Bengals come off a tough loss to the New York Jets. The Browns lost a division game to the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's going to be a little desperation there. The Bengals, embarrassment, losing a game they shouldn't have lost. Going to be very interesting. This battle of Ohio, part 1. Cincinnati against the Cleveland Browns. The Bengals beating the Steelers on the road. They're beating the Ravens on the road. If they can pull a trifecta in the first half of the season before the bye and get their 3rd division win against the Cleveland Browns at home, I'll tell you one thing, though. Bengals better put their big boy pads on because the Cleveland Browns are number 1 in the National Football League running the football. Let me make sure I get these numbers accurately. The Cleveland Browns are number 1 in terms of yards per game rushing, 161.1. They average 5.2 yards per attempt, best in the National Football League. They hold the opposition to 84.8 yards, 3rd best in the National Football League. 3.5 yards per attempt for the opposition running the ball, 2nd best in the National Football League. So they're number 1 running it. They're number 1 in yards per attempt running it, number 3 in yards allowed rushing, and number 2 in yards per carry allowed rushing. The Cleveland Browns run the ball and stuff the run. They're physical up front. Their run differential, plus 76.3 yards per game, number 1 in the National Football League. They run the ball for 3/4 of a field better than the opposition in every football game. In the NFL, that means something because if you can run the ball like that and you can play action pass, you're going to create some space between linebackers and safeties. The linebackers are going to have to react up to stop the running game, and you're going to have space is valuable real estate between the linebackers and the safeties throwing the football. You're trying to create as much space as you can. And Cleveland does a great job in their play action passing game in creating that space. They're also a great screen team. I mean, they screen the football as well as anybody. 34 screens they've run this year. Over 20 of them to their running backs. They've run like 15 to the wide receivers. To the tight ends, and 6, maybe half a dozen to the wide receivers. They run every screen known to man. They're a heck of a screen team. The Bengals are going to have to be on their P's and Q's about that. Let's face it, the Jets hurt them with their screen game. And Cleveland Browns are going to look at that tape and say, oh, boy, and they cracked the code with that. Let's see, is that a blueprint? Is that something we might be able to do? Chubb is the guy. You got to stop Chubb. 584 yards rushing, third best in the NFL, averaging 5.5 yards per rush. Hunt is on injured reserve, thank goodness. The other thing about the Cleveland Browns, defensively, they have a 1-2 punch at defensive end. Let's face it, they got some ball players at the defensive end position. Myles Garrett with 10.5 sacks, Jadeveon Clowney with 3.5. 14 sacks is the most sacks of any tandem, any duo in the National Football League. The thing is, though, Myles Garrett will also go inside and play over the guard. Ask Fred Johnson about that. Fred Johnson last year had difficulty with Myles Garrett, and he got a quarterback sack and stripped Joe Burrow of the football and gave Cleveland a short field up in Cleveland. Myles Garrett is unbelievably explosive. He's a load to handle inside for guards. They do a lot of twisting, a lot of stunts. They have a lot of athleticism, particularly when they put Myles Garrett inside and Clowney on the outside. I think he doesn't have a whole lot of sacks rushing inside, maybe a couple out of his 10.5, but he's in the quarterback's face. It's all about space, like I said. If the quarterback, you have to give the quarterback time and space to throw the football. And Garrett's always around the quarterback, in his face, bothering his arm, deflecting passes, that sort of thing. He disrupts the pocket when he's inside. He shrinks the pocket when he's on the edge, on the perimeter. That tandem is as good as there is in the National Football League. Challenge for the offensive line, challenge for the defensive line, because the Cleveland Browns offensive line is, in my opinion, one of the 3 best in the National Football League. And the running game numbers prove it. The defensive line, the running games prove it. They're shutting down the run, and they're giving themselves an opportunity to rush the passer. If the Bengals can't run the football at all in this football game, if they run the ball as poorly as they did in New York against the Jets, they had 11 yards on 8 carries in the first half. 11 yards on 8 carries. They finished the game with 60 carries for 41 yards. If you can't run it better than that, and the Cleveland Browns start to tee off, it's a long day for an offensive lineman. Believe me, I can tell you for a fact, if the defensive linemen are disregarding the run and just ripping up the football field and teeing off from the quarterback, that is tough duty. I don't care if you're playing at home, on the road, or in Yugoslavia, or on Pluto. It's a tough deal. So those are just some of the things that come to mind. And also, from a trade deadline standpoint, we're taping this podcast as less than a couple of hours from the trade deadline, and I don't think the Bengals are going to make any moves of any significance. And the Cleveland Browns decided not to trade Odell Beckham Jr. That tells me one thing. Better watch out for Odell Beckham Jr. this week. They're going to try to get him involved early and get him going with some explosives. He's complaining about the football not coming his way, and there's a lot of heat on the Browns organization to get Odell Beckham Jr. involved. So we'll see. Bengals better make sure that Odell Beckham Jr. does not get over the top on them at any point during the football game for an easy touchdown. I do think, though, one thing the Bengals need to do, and they've shown a history of doing this rather than making trades at the trade deadline, try to get a deal done with Jesse Bates. That'd be nice to get done. Make an announcement at the trade deadline that Jesse Bates is under contract for a long-term extension. They have a history of taking care of their own when their own show that they deserve to be taken care of. I do think that a deal will get done with Jesse Bates. I'm not saying it's going to get done today around the trade deadline, but I think that's the Bengals' priority right now, is to take care of their own. And first on that list is safety Jesse Bates.
At First Star Logistics, we're a very strict company that really puts the pressure on our employees. Breaks? What are those?
That's what I'm talking about, Icky. Get the body right, then the mind's right. You know.
Gotta get that body right.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Become a star with a chance to earn the highest commission percentages in the industry as a freight broker agent. Check out firststarlogistics.com.